So my last video was about Cuties and how genuinely terrible that movie was and is. I mean, the movie still exists, which, you know, sucked. So I can't keep using the past tense on it as if it has somehow been destroyed simply because the world at large hates it. It's almost like I'm trying to subconsciously destroy it in my mind and pretend it's not real by referring to it in the past tense, but we aren't going to get into the reasons why my subconscious wants to bury that movie right now. I mean, that would be far too arduous a process and a lot to unpack, and seeing as I am the type of person who barely has the competency to make the points that I need to most of the time, I'm not getting into that brain science. Literally everyone and their mother's butts has come out and pretty much said the same thing about Cuties. That being that the movie itself is inappropriate and filled with useless and altogether meaningless points of child exploitation in order to try to, quote, send a message that the movie ultimately fails at sending. It's a movie that is so radically stupid and poorly made that every single point where something, a meaning, or a theme could be shown in a creative way, or could at least be implied rather than being explicitly shown. Instead, the director opts to tell you what exactly is happening in the most obtuse way, usually through a character, and also film it in the most non-judgmental, this is normal, this isn't bullshit style that does nothing to create any kind of art or substance. Like, instead of using any nuance or grace, or even the smallest bit of tact in terms of portraying whatever it is trying to portray, usually an uncomfortable subject, it really came in with a sledgehammer and just made the dumbest, most brash decisions imaginable. I cannot truly emphasize just how stupid every single one of the decisions that was made in this movie was. It's a bad movie filled with child exploitation that somehow won an award at a film festival because it's just so artsy how the camera does long close-ups on child's bodies. I can't emphasize enough how annoyed and just how freaking terrible this is. I can't believe that there's an audience that didn't think this movie was a complete garbage fire. However, I think it is important to note that the audience had also been briefed at length about what the intentions of this movie were. So every time they were watching a scene showcasing these girls being exploited, showcasing these uncomfortable moments, instead of taking what they were actually seeing on screen, interpreting it for themselves, how it was being shot, and thinking about how the story was being told and if it was appropriate or not, they took it and said, well, that's gross, but it's supposed to be gross. Which, that's great that it's supposed to be commentary, but like that also doesn't excuse you from literally sexualizing these young girls and opening them up to be bait for predators. You know, you realize that you can make commentary on something without being truly disgusting, right? You realize you can create commentary on children in this day and age without marketing it directly to predators, right? You realize you don't have to make pedo bait for it to be art. Just a thought, just my 2 cents, especially to someone who's working with children. However, at the end of my last video that I just made, I made it a point to say that the only silver lining in this entire situation is the fact that almost everyone in the world has come together to denounce this garbage. Other than a couple articles that I've seen released about everyone who doesn't like this movie is apparently a right-wing nutcase, everyone and their mother's butts came together to say, actually no, filming girls like this is totally not okay. Purposely sexualizing children in this way, even if you're trying to make commentary on it, it's not okay. Showing these things happening, having young actors play this out, no, absolutely no, nobody wants to support that. And I said that, and I really do wish I could stand by it. I do wish I could say that everyone said that, but unfortunately not, because today we're talking about a guy named Mr. Girl on YouTube who had a lot to say about this movie.
Hi, cuties.
Including this.
This film does try to make you sexually aroused by 11-year-olds. And I'll say it's not bad at it. It's not a total failure in that regard, at least for me.
And this.
There are probably thousands of people masturbating to this film as we speak.
And this.
As far it's basically, and I'll put some shots, and I'll probably include footage throughout the whole review, but as far as like sexy music videos go, it's not bad. And it juxtaposes these amazing scenes where it's like you'll see the girls playing on a bed where they're stuffing gummy bears in their mouths and they're just totally children. And then you'll see them shaking their booties on this stairway as they make this viral video. And they're pretty hot. And you can say whatever you want about me. It's not my fault. I didn't make them do that. They did that.
And mind you, that was just in the first 3 minutes of his video. 3 minutes into this video, reviewing cuties, and this man, Mr. Girl, here on YouTube, a man who has such hot takes like medicating your children if they have ADHD or a behavior disorder is akin to teaching your kid how to roofie a girl at a party and sexually assault her. 3 minutes into his videos on cuties, and he is already talking about people pleasuring themselves to this movie, talking about how he was aroused watching this movie, and specifically focusing on the fact that he, a grown man who looks like he wouldn't be able to survive on his own, was very turned on by these 11-year-olds. But that doesn't make him a creep. Oh no. Because that was the intent of the director, to arouse him. He's not a creep though, because the director, who's also not a creep, made this commentary and it was supposed to arouse. So it's not creepy, guys. Please don't tell him he's creepy. By the way, if you think I'm lying or I'm kidding or I'm being at all facetious about him saying that medicating your child because they have a behavioral disorder or they have a learning disability is teaching your children to go out and use the date rape drug to make people compliant when they aren't, I'm not. Here's a literal clip of him saying that because he's a big brain genius. He's really out here saying the stupidest bullshit I've ever fucking heard, all the while thinking it makes him sound smart as shit.
And hey, if they're physically unable to will themselves to sit quietly in the atrociously dull brain prisons we call schools, well, just drug them. Yeah, just give them pills till they act how you want them to act. And then when your little boy gets older and roofies a girl at a party because she won't be docile and compliant and act how he wants her to act, we'll throw him in jail for doing the exact same thing that was done to him.
He is that guy in a philosophy class. That's who he is, truly. I don't think I have to explain why every bit of this is wrong. Everything he said is wrong. I don't think I have to explain why I'm typing my thoughts and feelings out right now and now vocalizing them as I record. That I don't have to explain this. This is exactly why you don't make movies like Cutie. This is exactly the point that everyone was trying to stop. This is why when making a movie about young girls living today and making a movie about this nuanced subject matter, you actually need to do it with some tact and some skill and some grace and some poise, and realize that if you make a movie blatantly sexualizing these girls, even if you think it's for commentary, it doesn't work because this is the audience you gain. You can't just say, let me exploit these girls because I want to make a movie about exploitation and it'll all even out. No, because curds like this man, Max Carson, whose full name is in his description box and on his Patreon, will come online and say, LOL guys, it's fine that I was aroused during this movie because that was the intent of the director, and therefore it's commentary on an issue. It's all commentary, so it's fine. I'm supposed to inform the audience that they can feel this way about literal children, which, you know, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry to have to do this, but if your response to why a movie is good is that it made you realize that you were sexually attracted to 11-year-olds and you can feel those emotions, you need to go to prison. You need to stop, get up, and walk to the county jail. I don't care. Just go. Because that is not a thing that should ever happen. I don't even like that I had to say that sentence. And the fact that you're saying like, oh, it's supposed to awaken something inside you, that is not an addition to why a movie is good. In fact, I would say that's an addition to why it's bad. And the fact that I have to sit here and communicate these thoughts that should be common knowledge, that should be baseline for everyone, is absolutely despicable. I feel like I came from a time and a place, I'm not that old, but I feel like I'm ancient at this point, where I grew up, where you at least kind of tried to hide this behavior and hide these thoughts. Like, people weren't walking around super willing to call themselves MAPs, to label themselves in these ways, and to admit online to their 1,000 fans that they were sexually attracted to children. Like, if you would have told me 5 years ago there would be a man called Mr. Curl online on the internet admitting to being aroused by a child, I wouldn't have believed you. And if you would have said he's trying to talk about it in an intellectual way and say, well, it's fine because the director wanted me to, I would have screamed at you. I really would have. But the human race is genuinely getting dumber and worse over time. So today, like I said before, we are going to be talking about Mr. Girl and his review of Cuties, in which he appears to come out as a man who is sexually attracted to literal children and why that's okay, why he thinks that's great. And also, not to be that person, but how does this man have a Patreon after saying this? Like, I don't want to pull an Ethan, but how does he have a YouTube channel still? Like, we all decided collectively on YouTube that Leafy was too much, but this guy who's openly discussing wanting to watch this movie over and over and over again in an inappropriate way, making jokes like that, talking about how he was deliberately and purposely purposely aroused. He's Gucci. He's okay. YouTube puts their stamp of approval on that guy. I'm done. Now, I have already covered some of the things he says at the beginning of his review, which is titled An Uncomfortably Honest Review, as if this is everyone's thoughts when they watch this movie. Because he titled it like that bothers the living daylights out of me. Because guess what, Max? It's only uncomfortable because what you are talking about at length is your attraction to children. That's what's uncomfortable here. It's not that, wow, this movie is really great and it makes you think, and everyone, as you imply, who watches this movie feels the way you do. No. It's uncomfortable because it made you really aroused, which is again something that you admitted within the first 3 minutes of the video. And then, Max, you went on to talk about how when you feel this way, it's not just because this movie that you watched put you in this mindset. It didn't awaken anything in you and kind of force you to take that role like you implied before within the first 3 minutes. But in fact, you think it replicates real life incredibly well. And you feel this way when you go on TikTok and you, quote, watch people of all ages, including minors, dance on there, which is disgusting.
And it's real. It's very realistic. I don't know if you've ever heard of the app TikTok. There's some pretty interesting stuff on there that, I've checked out, and I recommend you check it out.
It's disgusting because you just point blank admitted to being sexually attracted to minors, sir, in public, on YouTube, on video, a video that I downloaded and I don't know what to do with. You implied that everyone who takes part in watching this or watching TikToks also feels the same way, and you are simply the biggest intellectual because you're going to talk about it, and you're the biggest brain because you're going to admit it, which, no, sir, you're not. I know you're a contrarian and you like to say things because you think it makes you counterculture and it makes you smarter than everyone else to acknowledge that in the room, but you are perhaps the dumbest man on this hell site. You think you're smart when you are so fucking dumb, which is coming from me, so that's saying something. However, there is one part, only one part of this review that I actually appreciate and agree with.
The only so there's a scene where they're dancing on stage and there are these judges that are like frowning, or and like just people in the audience that are frowning. That's the only indication the film gives that this is odd or that they are overly sexualized. And
the only indication of the movie actually giving commentary like it said it was about, like it said was the implication, was the one scene where everyone's reacting to the girls dancing. Was everyone reacting the girls over sexualizing themselves in front of people? That was the only time the movie actually dictates that, hey, this thing that we've been throwing in your face for time and time and time again is actually really gross and wrong. Even the scene where they were in front of a literal security guard leering at these girls was treated as a one-off and like nothing was wrong there. Which, if what you were saying is true, Mr. Girl, means the movie did an exceptionally terrible job at what it was trying to do. Which means, if what people are saying, what the reviews are saying from the intellectuals are true, the movie didn't do a good job. And that includes you without a crystal ball, you fucking goof. Because if we're going to say the movie's job was to dictate this lesson and talk about over-sexualization and how it's fucked up, and there's only one scene that actually demonstrates that clearly, and even that scene doesn't do a good job, then it failed to do its job, while somehow succeeding at making you, a man who talks about minors on TikTok, aroused. It's fucking gross. Okay, I don't know how much I can take of this, but let's have a chat about YouTube for a second, because I actually want to have this discussion right now. Why is this allowed on here and other things are not? Why is this man who is talking about this, talking about watching minors dance in a promiscuous way, talking about how he's going to watch it again and again and again, and implying he's going to do something to himself while watching, why is that a cute thing that's allowed on this platform? Because there are other things that are being suppressed, other things that are being completely kicked off, and other things that I don't know. Why is this man talking openly about his sexual attraction to literal kids and talking about touching himself, and why is that cool? Like, Leafy got kicked off of YouTube, cool, but why are we allowing this instead? It's a 1-for-1. I don't get it. It's disgusting, it's abhorrent, and I feel like I'm taking crazy pills at this point because this should not be the case. As I am talking about this, I'm shaking a little bit because I'm so fucking mad. Like, I'm just straight up confused because this literal piece of human garbage is out here with the smuggest face in the world, as if him publicly coming online with his full name in the description box won't haunt him for the rest of his life. Like, this man genuinely doesn't understand what he's doing, and yet he's out here doing this, acting like it makes him an intellectual, acting like it makes him a free thinker, and I can't. I'm sorry. I wanted to go through this entire video and talk about why he's wrong, but we already know that already. This man doesn't have an intelligent argument, and I don't have to counter his arguments because his points are so grossly illogical and stupid that he's done that for me. Everything he says is so radically dumb that it doesn't need to be listened to. But what I do want to say, what I do want to take time to note, is this is exactly why this movie, the Cuties movie, is a problem. This man is exactly why a movie like that, made the way it was, shouldn't fucking exist. Because this movie and the director and everyone involved has now encouraged people like this to come out of the woodwork. This man talking about his proclivities and talking about TikTok and being sexually attracted to children outside of this movie normalized that for him. This movie made that okay to say for him. It made him feel like this was fine to do. And that is not okay. Never okay. Let me know what you guys think about Mr. Cutie in the comments down below. And with that, I am out of here. This is editing Shannon, by the way. So I was Googling a little bit more into this guy, Mr. Girl, and I found a post on Reddit that he wrote, in which it says, I am Max Carson. I was quite publicly arrested in college for comments about the Virginia Tech shooting. And then he, in the post, greatly mischaracterizes what happens and why he was arrested. Now, I didn't know anything about this, but apparently after a mass shooting, he went to class, race and gender studies class, and said, quote, if anyone in here says that they have never been so angry that they wanted to kill 32 people, they're lying. Which, I've been angry before. I've wanted to hit people. I've never wanted to kill 32 people, Max, so no. And then he said he was, quote, angry about all kinds of things, fluorescent light bulbs to unpainted walls, and it made him angry enough to kill people. And then he was asked, would you kill us? In the class, people asked him that, and he responded by saying, no, not all of you. And then he was arrested because at the same time, apparently he also published a suicide note. So this man is actually deranged, and he's on YouTube talking about being sexually attracted to children, and YouTube is paying him to make content. So I hate it here and I want to die. Let me know what you guys think. I'm out.